Welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris. We are going to be putting in luxury vinyl flooring. Same method will apply with your laminate flooring as well. The reason I like luxury vinyl flooring has the pad underneath already. I'm going to be using LifeProof. After doing some research, LifeProof has gotten some great reviews by other installers, pro vinyl installers as well. The tongue and groove are very durable. My folks have LifeProof throughout their whole entire house for the last couple years, and it's looked beautiful. My dad installed that himself, and we're going to be doing it throughout the whole entire house. I had carpet in here. Don't know how to remove carpet? Watch my remove carpet video. It's on the channel, and I'll try to link it in the description box below. So right now you're looking at a dirty OSB subflooring. That's just wood subflooring, fancy name for subflooring, but it's OSB wood. And it's dirty because I literally redid this whole entire room. So we need to prepare the floor. Even after you pull up carpet, if you pull up old planks or whatever, you need to double check because we want a beautiful smooth surface. So we're gonna look for remaining carpet staples. We're gonna look for nails or anything that are protruding a little bit that would affect our vinyl planks. We don't want any lift-offs. We don't want to be stepping on it after we install the whole thing and we're like, oh no, there's a creak right there. You don't want any of that. You want it beautiful. So let's go ahead and get into that. Okay, so first thing you need to do is obviously shop vac, but we need to go ahead and remove any large mud spots of my drywall mud that has also affected the subfloorings. We need to scrape that up with a paint scraper. That typically comes up pretty easy. But then also, we need to get it down, and this is the telltale sign right here, is you will see some carpet padding right there as my fingernail goes over it, my finger goes over it, right here. And underneath that is a staple right at the edge of my fingernail. And I actually found another one right here. We don't want those affecting our luxury vinyl planks. If you can't get them with needle nose or something like this, you might need to use a very thin flathead screwdriver, pry that up, and then get these in there and get it. I can't get them with these. They're pretty low. Now the other option, if you really wanted to, if it's like barely sticking up, you could just pound it in with a hammer if you really wanted to, as long as it's completely flush with the subflooring. All right, first and foremost, we need to go ahead and remove all my painting supplies. We need to clear out this whole entire room. What you see right there is just covering up my vents while I was doing my drywall work, doing my painting, etc. And what you see is you see a lot of paint, but then you see some drywall mud spots because I did a skim coat on the ceiling. So we need to go ahead, it's not too bad, there's some chunks, it looks a lot worse than it really is. But what we need to do here, especially with these drywall chunks, is we need to go ahead and scrape them off. They scrape off really easy, but it's gonna be a little dusty. So I'm gonna get out my shop vac, I'm gonna scrape these up, big chunks I'm just gonna throw in a bag. This dust, I'm gonna go ahead and shop vac it up. I'm gonna go around looking for any staples. I was pretty careful about doing that once I pulled up the carpet, but I might have a few stringers laying around that I don't know about. All right, next up, which is very important. So, because this is a full gut and remodel, I had some subflooring right here. Make a long story short, the previous owner had a water heater that was attached to the utility room that had a little bit of a leak, or maybe when he was changing it out. Anyway, there was some water damage in the closet subflooring. I ripped it up, I put in new subflooring, but it wasn't level, meaning that if I was going to put my planks down, it was going to be teeter-tottering. So I got this Henry 345. I'll link it in the description box below. It depends how big you need. I think they sell it in quarts. This is a gallon, not that cheap, about 30 bucks per gallon. And then I just use the same method, little drywall knife, paint scraper, whatever you want to do, and I just leveled it out. And then grab yourself your level, double check your levelness throughout the area. And if you have a little area that needs a little bit more, once it dries, put another little second coat on there so it's nice and streamlined. So I had to do that all the way down here. Now if the camera's picking it up, this color a little different obviously because I was dragging my shoes, drywall, dust, all that over here. So again, we're going to be shop vacuuming all that up before we do start. So that's a great product, kind of a floor leveler, floor patch, and it's super durable. I've had this in here for probably 2 weeks now, and no cracking. I mean, it's just going underneath your flooring, so it's nice and level. So let's start scraping and shop vacuuming. We'll be back with you. All right, floor is cleaned up, but we're gonna keep our tools in here just in case we come across anything. We're gonna vacuum up that you missed, a random staple. Now, as you notice here, here's my subflooring, and I noticed that when they're pieced together, there were a couple little things sticking up, so make sure you can hammer those down. Floor still looks dirty, obviously, but it's all scraped down, nice and smooth. I used some lineman's pliers to pick up a couple random things. I actually see something right here. I'm gonna get that after I film this. So what you typically wanna do is you wanna start with the longest wall, right? So what that means is this direction is 14 feet. This direction to the closet is about 12, but I got about 14 to the back of the closet there. Because it's an open closet concept, we don't have really many obstacles to work around. Our closet's gonna be, that's it, which is really convenient. As you know, what's good about this project as well is that I have no baseboards, no quarter rounds. That makes it super clean and easy to work with. If you're starting with base trim, I would recommend, if you don't like the look of quarter rounds, then go ahead and pry back your baseboards very carefully and then put them back after you're done so the baseboards sit flush on top of the vinyl planks. We will show you that in this video. Quarter rounds do work. Not too many people notice them. It just doesn't look as clean in my opinion. But quarter rounds are cheap and it's a great way to hide gaps as well. Now also something you want to look at, this is the door here and we're gonna go this way here. So typically, because of the length, you would run the boards this way. I'm gonna do that anyway. It's totally up to you, it's your house. If you're gonna have a transition right here, meaning a separation little piece of wood from this area here, I'm gonna be doing that with tile in the master bathroom. We'll get to that, make sure you're subscribed. So I want it going this way because it's gonna flow through the mudroom all the way into the living room. Again, forgive the mess, we're in a full remodel. So I could run it this way, whatever you wanna do, but typically they say it's more appeasing to the eye to go this way. To be honest with you, I kind of like this way better. But because it's gonna flow that way, I'm gonna go this way. Light's gonna pour in this way. It's gonna look great. That's gonna be the accent wall for the bed, headboard, closets over here, etc. So we're gonna be starting right over here in this corner, going this way. A couple things you gotta keep in mind is the length and width, obviously, right? So we want to go ahead and do some measurements. An easy way to do it is grab your tape measure, measure the length of your board, then measure the length of your room, divide it by the board length, and you'd get an understanding of, from start to finish, how many length boards you're going to need. Because what you don't want is you don't want to get all the way over here and then have this like little itty bitty sliver. Now this is a closet, so that wouldn't really matter, to be honest. If there's a tiny sliver, because there's gonna be a custom closet in here, there's gonna be chest of drawers, that's all gonna be hidden. But if you don't want that, then definitely plan out your boards. So instead of a very small section over here in the closet, then what you wanna do, you wanna cut down the first row so that when you get to the last row, it's gonna be an even thing. Now, if that bugs you, then go your thin strip in the closet, hide it, because this is gonna be very, very visible underneath the master bedroom window. So you want a nice length of a board here. You don't want something too thin where you're coming around the bed here and you're like, oh, beautiful, how gorgeous is that view? And then you look down and you're like, what's that? I mean, some people care, some people don't, but totally up to you. It's your house. All right, we're jumping into the future real quickly to talk about potential cutting the first row down a little bit so it flows evenly over to that side there. Again, this is not how you do it, so ignore this. We're just jumping into the future. And I'm a visual person. Could a measuring tape and a simple calculator do this for me? Absolutely, but again, I'm a visual person and I need to work out some angles here. So I have not banged these down. These are just simply in the groove, lightly laid down, very easily being able to lift each one off, put it back in my pile. That is the first full row here. I didn't have to cut any off, and because of my dimensions, Again, it's about 14 by 14, including the closet, 14 that way, 12 that way to the closet, extra 2 feet, 14, 14 we're gonna call it. So let's go up here to my first transition into my closet. I know right here, because it's gonna be butting up against this wall right here, that I'm gonna have a nice long piece going all the way up this area here and that area there. And then I'm just gonna notch it out around this little edge here. And so I like the look of that. That's gonna be nice visually for the eyes. Then let's go ahead and work our way into the closet area here, which I have the board not completely in, but I can actually see approximately how much I'm gonna have to cut off. And as you can see here, I end with a very wide piece as well. This is a thumbs up in my book because of my dimensions. If those are not your dimensions, make it even. Start off with a thinner piece. You guys get the idea. Full pieces all the way through, up and down, and then you're gonna end with a nice big piece as well. Now, let's go back in time and show you how to properly install this and get started. With that said, let's go ahead and open up our boxes, and we are gonna prepare our flooring in different sections, obviously not in this room. There's patterns on the board. Let me just show you. All right, I got my stacks here. This is only one box. So far I have about 5 different patterns here. You'll notice subtle details. Some of them won't be perfect, but let me show you a double up. So see this one that almost looks like a dude's face with his nose right here, going up to the top here? And then let me lift this one up, and then there's your dude with his face and a nose right there. So it's not exactly, I mean, it's really close. It's just higher up, so they cut it a little bit lower. So that dude's face is higher up on the one underneath, lower on this one. So get them in similar categories, because what you don't want to do is like do 2 of these in a row or right next to each other. You want to randomize it to make it look good. I mean, if you like that, again, this is your house. You do what you want to do, but typically you want to go ahead and randomize a little bit so that the eye doesn't catch certain things. Anyway, this is going to look stunning compared to this old nasty carpet. And this is the Life-Proof Rigid Core, waterproof 100% vinyl. In the chiffon, I believe you pronounce it, lace oak color. There's 7 planks per case. And there is your dimensions right there, 8.66 inches by 47.64 inches. We're gonna go 20 square feet for the entire box. So each plank, once again, is 8.66 by 47.64. So they're nice, thick, long planks. Now this Life-Proof has the pad already on the bottom of it. There's no need to lay down any pad or anything like that. Some of the manufacturers, you'll actually void the warranty on it if you do use another pad. So this is beautiful, high quality. Now let's go back in the future and let's get started. All right, I found about 6 different patterns. Some were very identical. Some it was kind of hard to tell. The ones with the faces, like I showed you earlier, that was probably the easiest ones to determine. All right, now I have myself a nice little rubber mallet. Now they do sell kits. I'll link it in the description box right below the video. They do sell some kits to help with install, but I'm gonna show you a couple of tips of the trades to help you if you wanna save some money. This stack right here is kind of called my random stack. They kind of are similar, but kind of the off pattern. So I just put them over here as kind of the random ones that kind of look alike. But these ones over here look pretty much identical, except for the pattern might be a little slightly lower, like I showed you earlier. Anyway, let's go in the room. Okay, again, we're gonna be starting in the left side of the room for myself. And let me show you, this right here is called the groove, this section right here. This section pointing down, that's called the tongue. The tongue goes up against your starting wall over here. Now, the manufacturer, this is Life-Proof once again, most manufacturers, but check your directions. They want a 1/4 inch off of every direction. That helps with expansion, that helps with movement, you name it. Again, it's cold in Colorado. It's warm in here right now. Things might fluctuate. I'm gonna get some spacers as well, 1/4 inch spacers. Those do come in the kit if you do purchase the kit, that go up against your walls right here, so you know exactly how far away a 1/4 inch is. Another tip for you, you could use a laser level, and if your baseboards hide it, you can actually just put some little screws in there to hold it in place if you want. But I'm gonna show you a different technique. All right, as we can see here, I actually used some contractor shims that I'm gonna be using. I had a few left over, but I bought a new pack as well for other projects. And the shim, the thick part of the shim is actually right at slightly over a 1/4 inch. So that's gonna work out perfectly. I already had those. Again, if you don't want to take the guessing into it, then go ahead and purchase the floor kit in the link below once again. I have my baseboard right up against here because I want to double check. This is a thinner option than a 1/2 inch trim. I like it a little bit thinner, but I want to make sure that it covers that gap without a quarter round, and it does, so I'm very pleased with that. For some reason, if you get done with your complete project and your baseboard does not cover it, once again, you can up it to 1/2 inch, Craftsman baseboard or whatever you're using, or use this with a quarter round piece, but again, I don't really like the quarter rounds, and I want to stay a nice, clean, flat Craftsman look all the way around this room. So we're going to show you a little bit more about how to put it together in the next row. I got 3 full-size planks. If you don't want to start with a full-size plank, then let me show you. Again, 3 full-size planks going this way. Now I'm getting to my first cut right here. So if you don't want to end with a small piece, then you could kind of reverse engineer it if you want to, but it's just easier this way. So I have 3 long pieces. I'm gonna go ahead and measure. Now when you measure, you're gonna measure right from the edge, right where my thumb is here. Don't measure from this little area here, the groove, because once again, it's gonna seat together. And as we can see, my seam here is seated together. Now I'll show you how to do that, but you just kinda, once you lip it together, go ahead and knock it into place there. Real simple. And then the cutoff piece of this one, let's go ahead and take this measurement here, once again from here, and then we are gonna stop a 1/4 inch over here. If your cuts are a little bit larger accidentally, remember you have your baseboards that will hide that gap. We don't wanna go too long either because shaving off very little bits isn't the funnest thing to do. It slows down the process. I'm gonna try not to get in your shot here. Simplest way, butt that right up against there. Bend your tape measure, and I'm looking at pretty much 24 1/4. So I'm actually, it's slightly above 24 1/4. We need to subtract a 1/4, once again, off our wall over to the right. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do a hair over 24 inches, which is 2 feet. That's an easy measurement. Remember, the groove side is facing you when cutting, so just remember that. We're gonna go from the edge, and we're gonna go right above 2 feet, 24 inches like I talked about. Okay, now with our little mark there, because these are so wide, something larger would be better, but I'll go ahead and have this linked in the description box below as well. This is a great square for straight edges. Then we just need to come around to this side and finish it off. So if you have something smaller than like this, then it's all greasy beezy, baby. Okay, and don't worry about the mark because obviously that's gonna be hidden and cut right through. So let's go outside to my Evolution miter sliding saw, which is awesome. I will link all my tools in the description box below. Super awesome, a lot better than scoring it with a box cutter and trying to snap it. Miter saw it, slide it. Because these are so thick, I'm gonna come down and slide it a little bit. Let's go outside and cut this thing. Now this is their 7 1/4 inch miter sliding saw. Now again, these boards are super wide, and so I might even have to rearrange this in the other direction to slide this all the way down. What's cool is that this actually has a laser here. What you always want to do is you always want to check your laser line right there. So I'm going to be coming down, so I want my laser just to the left of my pencil line to come straight down on it right here. This also tilts this direction, and it also swings for your baseboard. So this is kind of like a really cool miter saw for all your different projects, especially if you're going to be doing baseboards, quarter rounds. You're going to need that swinging angle as well. Of course, use your eye protection, and if you want to see my full review of this video, check out the channel. Make sure you are subscribed. Once again, in the description box below, I will have this exact same sliding miter saw with stand. It comes without the stand, and they actually have a bigger saw blade as well. So some different options. Really cool company, great tools. Let's go ahead and get this cut. Because of how wide the planks are, that was almost perfect. It did leave this little notch on the end right here that you can just snip off. Folks that have the narrower bores, this will not be a problem, especially using this miter saw. All right, I'm gonna try not to block your shot. You guys should have a nice clear view here. So again, the tongue is on this side here, the little groove. All you're gonna do is literally seat that into play. And what I try to do is I try to just line it up really nicely on the outer edge here. And you're simply gonna lay it down just like that. I got a 1/4 inch on this side, beautiful miter cut saw. Now is the fun part. Well, not really the fun part, but this is where the rubber mallet comes into play. So all we're gonna do here is we are gonna drop that in. Right now there's a lip. I can actually fill a lip with my fingernail or with my finger. So now we're gonna simply drop that in. Sometimes it takes a few little taps, but again, nothing hard. Don't use a regular hammer. Use a rubber mallet so you don't put any dents. I'm just doing that for excess. Now, that is a beautiful seam. Maybe one more tap right there. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, so make sure it's nice and smooth. And if you are having trouble with your click-ins after you're hitting it, you want to check the groove for debris. If you have debris after your cut, you want to look in here and make sure there's nothing clogging that, because then it won't seat properly. So if you're having a gap and it just won't get in, pull it up and make sure there's no broken pieces, shard pieces from your cuts, etc. Okay, now Chris, what are we going to do with the leftover piece we just cut? Well, it's right over there. We're looking absolutely stunning over here. So now we're going to grab the piece we just cut and we're going to walk it all the way back over here to this side here, moving our baseboard out of the way. That was just for measurement purposes. And obviously we've already shot backed, we've already done all that stuff already, but you want to just double check. You don't want to install this. You might even want to walk on it while you're working on it, but you don't want to obviously move it. So we're going to set some rubberized weights on this row here so it doesn't move, but I want to walk on it because I don't want to finish it, and then I don't want a soft spot that I missed with the floor leveling if I didn't correctly get to it in time. So I want to address issues before they arise. So once again, the groove is on this side, facing me over here. Now for this is the first time we're actually going to paddle it from the other direction. So you're going to slip it in the groove just like you did the other one there. And what I try to do is, if your wall is off, now this drywall actually sticks out just a little bit right back there. So instead of having a big gap like this is over 1/4 inch. That's a 1/4 inch, this is a little bit over. So what I'm gonna do on this one is I'm gonna lock it in, but I'm gonna back it up just a little bit. And you can do that as you go down the line. Now I'm already noticing this right here is pushed out a little bit more than right here. Again, you want to keep a 1/4 inch, so adjust it as you go down the wall. And before you bang it down, we're gonna grab another shim, that's a 1/4 inch, and put it right up against that. As you can see there, that is longer right here than it is to right here, but that's okay. Once again, we're gonna be adjusting as we go. We already know we're gonna have to adjust that one. Use your 1/4 inch spacers, and now we're gonna set that down and we're gonna go ahead and whap, tap, tap, but I'm gonna go ahead and get my weights from my workout room and I'm gonna go ahead and put them on these boards first before we start that. All right, this is where it gets juicy here. And again, we don't want our seams, and because this is backed up, which is beautiful, right? So as I lay this one in, look at where my next seam is, way up here. That is awesome. You're staggering the seams. And I've randomized my pattern where this is different. See this first small piece? It's lighter here, darker in the middle. This one's darker over here, and this right here is over to the right. And then this piece over here is a little bit different. We're randomizing, we're making it look BEA beautiful. So, how to do this row, you're gonna go ahead and put your tongue in this groove here, and then you're gonna back it up to this short piece here and go ahead and seat it down. Now, this is where it gets even juicier. There's a little bit of a gap we need to close right here. all the way down the row right here. Now your kit will actually give you this little banging thing. It's actually pretty cool. But we're gonna try to skip that step because I want to install this and I'm impatient for Amazon to deliver it. I told you it was gonna get juicy. So these are samples that I was checking out in the store. You can simply do this if you don't have a sample. With a scrap piece, you can cut off a small piece. Anyway, take whatever sample you want. This is similar length, but not quite that much, but it really doesn't matter. These are totally two different brands, and a tapping block will do this as well. Now, before you do use the tapping block scrap piece, you want to go ahead and tap down your edge in the back portion first. And try to get a scrap piece. Again, you can just literally knock off a little bit of piece off of one of these, off your shorter piece if you want. You'll probably have some scraps, especially if you're flowing through the rest of the room. But this is pretty much identical. So I tap down the back, I tap down this back edge right here, all the way down here, and then I just use my tongue portion in my groove, and I put my fingers underneath it like this, and I tap that in, and I work my way from the front portion, the middle portion, and the back portion, and that sealed up that seam line tremendously. I mean, I'm talking about like I can't even see it. Phenomenal. Now, if you have a slight gap right here where I can kind of see it with my naked eye, but not really, then same exact thing. Now I have a little bit right here as well. So when we get to this section, I'll go ahead and bang that in. Now I actually have something right here as well. So this is actually a perfect opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead and put my tongue in the groove, hold it up like this. And what you're doing there is I just sealed that up, number one. So you will probably, especially with a scrap piece, especially if you tap it over and over again, you might lose some of your edge here. It depends on how quality of a scrap piece you have. But still will work nonetheless. Then come over to this side. So we're going to go down this side. I like to tap in two different places, closer to the edge and then over here on the edge. So, and beautiful. B-E-A, beautiful. Look at that. You see that right there? That is called a factory seam, my friend. Gorgeous. You know who's gorgeous? This seam is gorgeous. You know what's not gorgeous? Is I just took a long dinner break. Now it's dark, now it's late. I'm hoping I can finish this room before I go to bed. And what's nice about my next piece is here's my seam right here. Check that out. And also something I don't think I mentioned in the video, your first row, the top seams, they go in pretty easily. It's when you get to your side seams, but if your top seams, then use the same tapping method to knock it into play. But typically those go in really beautifully flush. So again, we're just gonna pop it in, move it all the way back to our little groove there. We're gonna go tap, tap again. We're gonna work this room. All right, another problem with another solution. So again, I'm only on the second row still. This is a full board, but as you can see here, we got like 5/8 of an inch. That's way too much. So to combat that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna stay away from this seam right here where this kettlebell is. And you wanna go about 8 inches, so it's not so stacked up, those seams, because you will notice, right? So what I'm gonna do is there's probably gonna be a nightstand right here. So I can choose about maybe 8 inches back this way, have a short piece right here, and then the long piece, or go 8 inches this way, and then cut down this board. So I think that's what I'm gonna do for more of a flow here, because this is gonna be on the side of the bed. So I'll have the shorter one up here. So anyway, keep it about 8 inches away from the seam. Make your cut so that we don't have this little itty bitty gap. Again, that's almost there with my baseboards, but it's not there. Here is a better look at the gap compared to a 1/4 inch gap right there. Now I'm gonna go in the future to help you with a possible mistake and show you what to do if you do come across this. Okay, that piece that I cut off of the first row, I should not have brought that back. The directions actually state this, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. So I brought that piece back here and started my second row, but now with a full row, I'm like 5/8 away from the wall. So that's not gonna work unless I want a 5/8 piece, which I don't really want a 5/8 piece shoved up in the corner. So, mistakes happen, and I'm gonna show you how to fix it. So we're not gonna scrap that first little piece. We're gonna use that for maybe like the very end. We'll cut off one little section. So we'll use that piece. So that's not a dud. But let me show you how to lift these up. So obviously you just grab it from this row right here. You're gonna come up like this. It's gonna come out of this groove here. And you're gonna work it slowly towards down to the next section here. Now if you needed to break off this piece only, then what you do is then you just lean it back a little bit. You'll hear a little click. Don't worry, you're not going to ruin it. I just did it to that one over there. Because it's a full row, it's going to be super easy to take apart once I've already banged it in. And this is a great example for you guys if you come across an issue like this. Now with that said, I might have to use this piece on another room. Reason being is I need the tongue and groove over here on this side, because if I reuse that piece anywhere in this house again, I have no groove over here. So it needs to start that direction there. So I'll just save this for like a bathroom or something like that. Anyway, showing you this mistake so you don't do it. You can even use this as a template. So now that I know that I am going to be 5/8 of an inch up there, what I want to do is I want to measure this piece 5/8 of an inch further that direction so that I end perfectly with a full piece down there. Even if I'm too long, at least I have something to cut instead of coming up too short. You don't want to come up too short, especially that short with a full piece. So just to play it safe, I might even go. Now here's a very, very important tip for cutting starting on your second row and every row after that. You're saying to yourself, okay, I'm just going to measure from this side there. No, that's not what you do, because what's going to happen is you are going to lose your groove right here. We need a groove in order to click it in all the way down. So whatever measurement you need to take it from the groove side. There's a groove right here, and that's the way we're going to go. There's a groove right here and a groove right here. Always remember that. 2 grooves, we're going to be going that direction. So what you do, take your measuring tape and go this direction. Since I have a plank, I'm going to go ahead and go this direction. I'm going to do a little mark, and then I'm going to go ahead and square it up with my square. Again, what that's going to do is now this is going to be the piece that goes up against this wall right here, working my way this way. And then I still have a tongue down here with a straight edge here. I'll use this for an end piece down there by that wall over there. Eventually, somewhere in my project. All right, so again, this is the minimum length we need the first board to be for the entire rest of the room. So we're always going to go, not obviously stacked up right next to it, because I don't want a seam right next to it. I want to stack my seams about 8 inches apart or so. So the next one obviously can't be shorter, so I got to go longer. And so all my seams are off. So here's the seam. The next seam is way down here. The next seam is way up here, if you can see that, which I don't know if you can or not, way up here. So coming back over here, the next piece I cut is going to be 8 inches past this seam. And remember, measure over here. On the right side, with your groove facing the wall you're going to end on, measure that way, and we'll cut that way. And we'll cut the line there, and then slide that portion on down. But remember, that method only applies to the starting board, so your tongue is this way. Do not apply that to your ending board, because then you're going to cut off the wrong side. So on this ending board, I would measure from the tongue side, and I need to cut off the groove side So that's a straight cut going up against the end of my row. This will definitely save you mistakes and sliced planks that you might not be able to use because of the layout of your house, but keep those. If you do make that mistake, put those to the side and hopefully you'll be able to use them in your project. All right, we've come to our first vent cut, but first I want to show you the rest of the room. Now, it got late the other night, so I decided to finish up today, this evening. So as you can see here, I'm about halfway through the room, but I do want to show you my cuts. I got a few pencil marks here that I need to clean up. Again, double checking what side you're cutting from will save you some pain in slashed planks that you cut the wrong side. So again, we went full plank, smaller plank, medium plank, back to full plank. So I literally just copied that same design. Full plank, smaller than first, larger than second, but still smaller than first, back to the original full plank. And then a short one, medium, full plank again, pencil mark, don't worry about that, I'm gonna clean that up. And now we're back to full plank. So that's a good copy to keep in mind. Looks good, and you're literally just making 2 cuts there, and then obviously every single one of those is a cut at the very end as well. So coming back over here to the vent cut. Now this is right here on the edge. A couple things you can do is you can mark this out, measure it, mark it out, and you can put it all together, and then you're gonna have your measurements right on the top, and then you go ahead and use a little saw. I'm gonna show you how to do that, and you can just bang it out in one fell swoop right there. Or you can cut as you go. Now you do need to cut it all the way up to the edge right here, so your vent guard, or they call it like a return guard, will slip in. So this, even though it's like right on the edge, I'm about half a fingernail I need to cut back. Don't overcut it, obviously. I mean, if you overcut it, you're gonna go into your subflooring, but you wanna cut it right on the edge because the returns have an extra little like 1/4 inch, little more than a 1/4 inch lip, and that's just to cover anything over there. So let's grab the saw. I'm gonna go ahead and do it one row at a time, just in case you don't want to mess it up and then have your whole entire room finished. Now with my room, I have the vent right here, straight down the same row. Underneath that drywall, I need to move out of the way for dust purposes. I got the vent starting right there as well. So it's a simple room for myself. First and foremost, make sure the piece that you are cutting is tapped down and locked in properly so that you can do a precise cut. Now I highly recommend a jigsaw. If you use a sawzall, you might get a little crazy with it. Sometimes sawzalls are a little unpredictable and you can rip right through your ducting, subflooring. These are a little bit more precise and small. Use some safety glasses. Again, I'm just notching just a little bit out. I'm gonna go right to the duct edge. So it was the lip and just a little bit right here as well. Vent's gonna sit really nice on top of that. All right, that's looking great there. Obviously now you wanna clean and shop back up any of these big pieces. Not to mention, if you do have a helper, have them hold the shop vac right underneath the blade. I'm gonna go ahead and have to shop vac what's in my vent out of there now. And also when you do make that cut, there's gonna be debris in this row that's gonna prevent you probably from locking it down properly. So definitely shop vac that out. I had little pieces of debris like way back here. Blow it out, shop vac it out. My vent is nice and clean again, except for those. Don't worry about that, that wasn't from the vinyl. Already cleaned that already. And now, all right, once again, we're back over here. Same method is gonna apply on both sides. So I can see my little itty bitty cut as I knocked this plank into go mode right here. Now I'm just gonna take my jigsaw again, start right here, same exact thing. I'm gonna go straight at it, come over here, go straight at it, pick up the piece, get rid of it. Then the next row, I'll be able to see this portion. So my vent actually came in really handy, giving me a couple different options to get after it. Now again, if you really wanted to, you can make sure that you have your pencil marks and on a scrap sheet of paper so you know exactly where it is. You could do like a little pilot drill hole and then zigzag your way around it if you want to do that. I'll totally leave it up to you. This way seems a bit easier to me. All right, make a long story short, another tool and another option you can use is the oscillating tool here, which did a really great job going that direction there. Make a long story short, I broke the blade off of my jigsaw. This actually worked completely fine. Do be careful with this though. You don't want to go too far, too fast. Grab your vent. I'll be using one like this, but I'll be painting it a different color. I'll be painting it a little bit more light to match the planks here, but fits perfect. No gaps, no seams around the edges. We're looking great. Again, make a very tight mark just so it fits right in there just beautifully. I like what I'm seeing. Let's continue. Okay, really important here as we get to the door. I thought I was not going to do a transition. I thought I was just going to flow it all the way into the living room. Mistake on my part. I think the room looks great. Sure, I could have gone this way anyway because I was going to do a transition strip, which I didn't know I was going to do a transition strip. However you pronounce it, transition strip. So, we're going to do a transition strip. The reason being is because of the way of the tongue and groove, I can't reverse it like the room is being built out where I can't lift it up, slide it under, and pound it down. Then I'll be working backwards the whole time. So we'll correct that. The pros say that every time you have a door put in a transition, helps with the flow. It just helps install a little bit easier. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to come in a 1/2 inch inside of my door sill right here. Because the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to be like, okay, well, I'll just put my transition. Now, I have this little piece to kind of show you, and I'm going to be getting a channel one that just has this little T. It's called like a T transition, right? This is just for entertainment purposes only here. But first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to think it's supposed to go right in the middle of the sill. No, that's not correct. So the door stops right here. What we want to do is we want to come in a 1/2 inch inside of the sill, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, because what we want to do is we want to mount our little aluminum bracket down here, and then we're going to put our T right on top, lock it down into place. Obviously it's not going to be white, we're going to get one that matches this color. And what that does is that gives you some wiggle room to place it there, and then the ends of the T transition are going to cover up the gaps. It's going to look tremendous. So that's how to do transitions. Now, sure, it'd be a lot easier if I already had it. I do not have it because I didn't think I was going to do a transition. And so I'm going to leave all my cuts in front of the door here that go that way. I'm going to leave them, again, a 1/2 inch from inside of the door sill right here, all lined up. You can put a piece of painter's tape down there, but again, we're starting it here, so we're not going to be messing that up. We don't have to be absolutely precise, we just want straight, because remember, we're going to be starting it here, and I need to also get underneath this door jamb. So how to do that, this is when an oscillating tool does come into play. You're going to use a little straight saw, thin straight saw. So grab your piece of rubbish that you've used to cut the vents or whatever, and because of this, I'm either going to be right on the dot. We do want a nice slide. I actually might mark it and start a little bit lower. You can do this, it's pretty simple, but what I don't want to do is have too big of a gap and then have to caulk it, etc. So this should actually be real nice here. Then once you get it started, then you can get your These tools are worth their weight in gold, especially for transition pieces and door jambs, etc. Okay, because I'm going to be doing my flooring all the way through, again, I just used the piece, my actual vinyl planks that I'm going to be transitioning through. Now, I'll be doing tile for the master bath, but we just went around and we just did the full shebang. Super clean, super nice. Let's get those chunks out of there. If there are some tricky little things, you might need to go back inside and kind of clean it up. You can get a thin chisel, whatever works for you. We're gonna shop vac that up in a second here. But I just wanna check here so it's a little tight still. For these pieces, obviously I'm gonna stop closer up. Let's see if my 1/2 inch fits. No, it does not. So I just clean that up a little bit. We'll slide that under. Okay, it fits now, but now we need to notch around. So we need to take our measurement, again, exactly where I wanted, a 1/2 inch in from the inside of the door sill right here, 1/2 inch. We need to measure where it clicks into flushly here. This is gonna have some trim around it here and door trim here. We don't wanna see any gap outside of the door trim. So I always say less is more. If you have to trim a little bit, better than having to do a bunch of caulk. All right, just like this here. And this is gonna be part of my trim piece here. Obviously I need to brad nail it into the wall, and we're gonna clean up just a little bit on the back of that. So that's gonna compress a little bit nice and tighter up against this. I think I just have to remove a little bit of excess drywall that is sticking out right here. And the reason we're gonna be doing this trim piece like this, and then we're gonna be putting a Craftsman trim piece on the outside with my baseboards. Typically you wouldn't have to do this extra piece because obviously the door is way back here, but I actually enlarged this door from a very small master bedroom entry door. I expanded it 4 inches, but that's looking really good. We're a 1/2 inch inside of the sill. Let me get a close-up shot. Ignore this. This is the trim piece. This is the door. We're coming in a 1/2 inch, slipping it right under the bottom, and our transition channel will come in right here. Then obviously when I get to the mudroom will flow and connect back here a little bit, so there's plenty of room for the aluminum transition piece to go in down here, and then the T transition to clip into that right there. And what that does, you're like, Chris, what's the whole deal with that? Well, when you close the door, we don't want to see a transition piece way out here. The transition piece needs to be completely underneath the door. All right, I got 2 hacks for you. Why are you showing me a snowy outside picture? Well, if it's too snowy to get to the store, to get one, the little black bar tool, I highly recommend one of those. I'll link it in the description box. I'll try to throw up a still shot right now of what I'm talking about. But if you don't have one, you can get a little creative with a small something or other, a crowbar. This one actually is very handy. It has to be thin, but let me show you and how to not damage. So as I get here to the closer to the edge here, my hammer can't hit it. And if I do make slight contact, I'm hitting the wall. I'm not putting very much pressure, and it's hard to seal the gap once you get towards this area. And this goes for the top as well. So this method, I was looking all over the house. I was like, goodness, what am I gonna do? So whatever gap it is, I have a 2x6 right here. 2x4 works just fine as well if it's cut down to length, but I need to get some leverage back here. So I do like a 1x3, 1x2, I need to fill in that gap. And then all I'm gonna do here, don't get the groove, but you wanna come up just slightly right here in the groove here, putting pressure, obviously using 2 hands, and then I'm gonna be arcing it back, and you'll actually watch the seam seal shut just beautifully. You can do it for both sides, but I highly recommend, and if it was not snowing, I would run out to the store and go buy one of those corner tools, because the same method applies if you do not get a nice seam on your ends because you just don't have the room to bang. Those come in very handy. So I'm pretty pumped up. I was able to do the same method for free. Next hack, you're like, Chris, what's the second hack? Next hack is this. Again, your sample scrap pieces. 2 screws right into the subflooring right here. This is holding it down this direction. I have no shims, I can't hold, it's a floating floor. So when you start knocking that in, tightening up the gaps going this way, guess what? It's gonna slide on you and it's gonna slide right out the door. So take some scrap pieces that have straight edges, screw them in right there, and then when you're ready to put your transition in, then obviously remove them. But that is keeping that from slipping. Well, folks, the flooring is done. I'm just finishing up a few little items around the room. but the room is almost done, but we're concentrating on the flooring for this particular video. And the sun's coming in, it's looking beautiful, the baseboards are in. Now, something to keep in mind is that caulking is going to be your friend if you have gaps, meaning that if your subflooring was off already in an older home, there were a few parts underneath the baseboards that just wasn't sitting flush completely on top of the flooring. I used some caulk, white caulk, and zipped a line underneath the bottom. So that will be your friend if for some oddball reason your baseboards don't sit completely flat, if you might have missed a little bit of leveling somewhere. Then I went ahead and went on Amazon and got some floor vent registers, they call them, for my furnace. And those are blending in a lot better. You could also use spray paint and do your other ones that you already have, but they were like under 10 bucks per each. So I was pretty happy with that. Overall, the closet's looking fantastic. Just a few tools I need to clean up. I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum and bring in my furniture. I haven't done the baseboards on the closet quite yet. The angles around the closet entry came out tremendous. Really impressed with that. My lines are lining up very nicely. My patterns, as you can see, the color is very nice. I have not put in the transition yet, and I'm going to keep these in play just so that there's no sliding that direction until I get the rest of the flooring through the mudroom in. Definitely stay tuned because the master bathroom and mudroom are next, and this was nasty, and this has now become my workroom, my tool storage, and we're gonna be putting on a hidden hinge mudroom door with a similar accent of the slat wall right up here. So definitely check out the channel. This is another project we just finished up as well. This is the accent wall. Those are LED lights right there, individually controlled. They shoot off fireworks. It's pretty stinking sweet, to be honest with you. I'll hide my power supply in my nightstand. Hit that thumbs up button if you wouldn't mind, and share the video if you are into videos like this or have friends or family members who want to do similar projects to this. We did windows, we did smart recessed lights. I still need to put in my fan plug up here. And don't forget about your links in the description box below, where I once again will have the Evolution miter saw, which came in super handy for this job, as well as my accent wall. I made all my cuts on that, my baseboard cuts on that, my baseboard angle cuts on that. So that will be linked in the description box, top link below. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next video. My name's Chris. Take care for now. Bye-bye. Don't let the party stop, guys. Hit one of these videos, continue to watch, and we'll see you soon.